Marcus Thompson checked his watch as he stepped out of his car. 9:15 in the morning. His interview was scheduled for 9:30. He was early, just like always. He believed in being prepared and on time. It showed respect. He looked up at the tall glass building in front of him. Tech Vision Solutions. The name was written in big silver letters above the entrance. The building was modern and clean. It looked expensive. Marcus took a deep breath and walked toward the front doors. Inside, the lobby was cool and quiet. The floors were made of polished marble. His shoes made soft clicking sounds as he walked. A large reception desk sat in the center of the room. Behind it, a young woman with red hair smiled at him. "Good morning. How can I help you?" she asked. "Good morning. I'm Marcus Thompson. I have an interview at 9:30 for the senior developer position." The receptionist typed something on her computer. Her smile grew wider. "Oh yes, Mr. Thompson, we've been expecting you. Please have a seat in our waiting area. Someone from HR will be with you shortly." Marcus thanked her and walked to the waiting area. There were comfortable gray chairs and a glass coffee table with magazines on it. 2 other people were already sitting there. A young Asian man in a navy suit was looking at his phone. A woman with blonde hair was reading through some papers. They both looked nervous. Marcus sat down and placed his briefcase next to him. He had brought copies of his resume, his portfolio, and letters of recommendation. He always came prepared. That was how his father had raised him. "Always be twice as good and twice as prepared," his father used to say. That's how you succeed in this world. Marcus had followed that advice his whole life. He had worked hard in school. He had studied late into the night while his friends were out having fun. He had graduated from MIT with honors. He had a degree in computer science and another in artificial intelligence. After college, he had worked for 2 major technology companies. He had spent 12 years building his career. He had led teams. He had created new software programs. He had even helped develop patents for AI technology. This job at Tech Vision Solutions was perfect for him. The position was for a senior software engineer. They needed someone who could lead projects and develop new AI systems. Marcus knew he was qualified. He knew he could do the job well. "Mr. Thompson?" Marcus looked up. A Korean woman in a business suit was standing in front of him. She had a warm smile on her face. "Yes, that's me," Marcus said, standing up and shaking her hand. "I'm Jennifer Park from Human Resources. It's nice to meet you. Are you ready for your interview?" "Yes, I am." "Thank you." Jennifer led him down a long hallway. The walls were decorated with photos of the company's products and awards. They passed several offices where people were working at their computers. Everyone looked busy and focused. "We're very excited to meet you," Jennifer said as they walked. "Your resume is very impressive. The engineering team has been looking forward to this interview all week." Marcus felt a small wave of pride. It was good to know they appreciated his experience. They arrived at a large conference room. Inside, 4 people were waiting. Jennifer introduced them one by one. There was David Chen, the engineering manager. There was Sarah Williams, a senior developer. There was Raj Patel, the technical lead, and there was Michael O'Brien, the project coordinator. They all shook hands with Marcus. David Chen pointed to a chair at the head of the table. "Please have a seat. Can we get you anything?" "Water, coffee?" "Water would be great, thank you," Marcus said. The interview began. For the first 30 minutes, they asked him about his background. Marcus talked about his education at MIT. He explained the projects he had worked on at his previous companies. He described the teams he had led and the challenges he had solved. The interviewers listened carefully. They nodded and took notes. They seemed impressed. Then they moved to the technical questions. This was the part Marcus loved. They asked him about programming languages. They asked him about artificial intelligence and machine learning. They asked him how he would solve specific problems. Marcus answered each question clearly and confidently. He didn't just give simple answers. He explained his thinking process. He drew diagrams on the whiteboard. He gave examples from his real work experience. David Chen leaned forward in his chair. His eyes were bright with interest. "That's a really innovative approach," he said. "I hadn't thought about solving it that way." The interview was supposed to last 1 hour, but the team kept asking more questions. They wanted to know more about Marcus's ideas. They asked him about future technology trends. They asked him what he thought about the company's current projects. 2 hours passed quickly. Finally, David Chen looked at his watch. Wow, we've been talking for 2 hours. Time really flew by. He looked at the other interviewers. They all nodded at each other with small smiles. David turned back to Marcus. I have to be honest with you, Marcus. This has been one of the best interviews I've conducted in years. Your experience and knowledge are exactly what we need. You're definitely our top candidate for this position. Marcus felt relief and excitement wash over him. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm very interested in this position and in joining your team. We're interested in you too, Sarah Williams added. Your ideas about AI development are really forward-thinking. Raj Patel nodded in agreement. I would love to work with someone who has your background. David Chen stood up and shook Marcus's hand again. Here's what happens next. We need to finish up some paperwork with HR. They'll also want to schedule a final meeting with our department head. But between you and me, I think that's just a formality. We want you on our team. Marcus shook hands with everyone. They all thanked him for coming. Jennifer Park appeared at the door to escort him out. I'll take you to a waiting room while HR prepares the next steps, Jennifer said. It should just be a few minutes. They walked down another hallway. This part of the building was quieter. There were fewer people around. Jennifer stopped at a small room with a door that had a frosted glass window. You can wait here, she said. Make yourself comfortable. Someone will be with you very soon to discuss next steps and scheduling. The room was small but comfortable. It had 2 chairs, a small table, and a window that looked out at the city. Marcus sat down and pulled out his phone. He wanted to text his wife and tell her the good news. The interview had gone even better than he had hoped. As he was typing the message, he heard voices. They were coming from somewhere nearby. He looked up. There was another door in the room. It was slightly open, just a crack. The voices were coming from the other side. It sounded like an office next door. At first, Marcus didn't pay attention. He went back to his phone. But then he heard his name. So what did you think of Marcus Thompson? A man's voice asked. Marcus stopped typing. He looked at the door again. He shouldn't listen to other people's conversations. But they were talking about him. And the door was open. He could hear every word clearly. I don't know. A woman's voice answered. Did you see his resume? Yeah, it looks good on paper, the man said. Marcus felt confused. They sounded uncertain. But the interview had gone so well. David Chen had said he was the top candidate. What was there to doubt? He sat very still and listened. Something in the tone of their voices made him uncomfortable. Something didn't feel right. The voices continued talking. Marcus's heart started beating faster. He had a bad feeling about what he was about to hear. He didn't move. He just sat there listening as his whole world was about to change. Marcus stayed completely still in his chair. His phone was still in his hand, but he had forgotten about the text message to his wife. All his attention was focused on the voices coming through the door. His name is so urban, the woman said. There was a strange tone in her voice. It wasn't professional anymore. It sounded almost mocking. Marcus Thompson, the man repeated. Then he laughed. It wasn't a friendly laugh. Yeah, I know what you mean. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Urban. He knew what that word meant when people said it like that. It was a code word. A way to talk about race without actually saying it directly. I'm just saying I'm not sure he would fit our company culture. The woman continued. Marcus's hands gripped the arms of his chair. Company culture. Another code phrase. He had heard it before in his career. It usually meant they didn't want someone who looked like him. Did you see where he went to college? The man asked. MIT. Oh, please, the woman said. She made a sound like a small laugh. You know how he probably got into MIT. Affirmative action. They have to let a certain number of them in. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the chest. Them, she had said them. And she was dismissing his education, his hard work, everything he had accomplished. She was reducing it all to the color of his skin. You're probably right, the man agreed. I mean, his resume looks impressive, but you never really know with these situations. They get special treatment, you know? Special treatment. Marcus had worked twice as hard as most of his classmates at MIT. He had studied while others slept. He had proven himself again and again. There was nothing special about it except his determination and his brain. What did David Chen say about him? The woman asked. Oh, David loves him. You know David, he's all about the technical stuff. He doesn't think about the bigger picture. The bigger picture? The woman asked. Yeah, like how he's going to interact with clients, how he's going to represent the company. I mean, come on. Can you imagine him going to our client meetings? The man's voice changed. He started talking in a different way. His voice got deeper and he added a fake accent. Yo, let me tell you about this software program. Know what I'm saying? The woman burst out laughing. Oh my God, Brad, stop it. So the man's name was Brad. Marcus made a mental note. He wanted to remember everything. I'm serious though, Ashley, Brad said. We need to think about this carefully. We have other candidates. That guy Jason Miller has a good resume too. Maybe not quite as much experience, but he went to Stanford, and he would definitely fit in better with the team. Ashley. The woman's name was Ashley. Marcus memorized it. Jason Miller is a good choice, Ashley agreed. He seems more reliable. More stable? Reliable, stable, more code words. What they really meant was white. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. But he forced himself to stay calm. He forced himself to keep listening. He needed to hear everything. The problem is David really wants this Marcus guy, Brad said. He kept going on and on about how impressive the interview was. Well, David doesn't make the final hiring decision, Ashley said. We do. HR has the final say on culture fit. True, Brad said. So what do? We reject him, Ashley said simply. We just have to be smart about how we do it. What do you mean? We can't say anything that sounds discriminatory. We just say he wasn't the right fit for the position. We say we found a candidate whose experience aligns better with our specific needs. But his experience is perfect for the position, Brad pointed out. Yeah, but we don't have to say that. We just use vague language. We thank him for his time. We say we're moving forward with other candidates. It's easy. What if David pushes back? Brad asked. Let him push back. We'll just say we interviewed Jason Miller again and felt he was a better culture fit. David will complain for a day or two, but he'll get over it. He always does. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. They were planning to reject him. Not because he wasn't qualified. Not because someone else was better. But because of his race. And they were planning to hide the real reason. They were planning to lie. I just want to make sure we protect the company, Ashley said. We have a reputation to maintain. Our clients are mostly white executives. They expect a certain type of person when they work with us. I agree completely, Brad said. Besides, you know how these diversity hires turn out. They're fine at first, but then they start complaining about discrimination and racism. They file complaints. They cause problems. It's not worth the risk, diversity hire. Marcus had never been a diversity hire in his life. He had earned every position he had ever gotten. He had competed against everyone and won based on his skills and his merit. Exactly, Ashley said. Why take the risk when we have perfectly good white candidates who won't cause any issues? So we're agreed then? Brad asked. We reject Marcus Thompson and offer the position to Jason Miller. Agreed, Ashley said. I'll draft the rejection email later today. Something polite and generic? Perfect, Brad said. Hey, are we still getting lunch at that new Italian place? Yeah, I'm starving. Let me just finish this paperwork first. Marcus heard the sound of papers shuffling. Then he heard a chair move. They were getting ready to leave the office. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He looked down at his phone still in his hand. Then an idea came to him. A desperate, important idea. He quickly opened his phone's voice recorder app. His fingers were trembling, but he managed to press the record button. He had to capture this. He had to have proof. Without proof, it would just be his word against theirs. And he knew how that usually turned out. Did you see the look on his face when he walked in? Ashley said suddenly. So confident. So sure he had the job. Well, that's about to change, Brad said with a laugh. I almost feel bad, Ashley said, but she didn't sound like she felt bad at all. She sounded amused. Almost. Don't feel bad, Brad said. We're protecting the company. That's our job. We're supposed to make sure the right people get hired. The right people, Ashley repeated. Exactly. Marcus held his phone up slightly, making sure it could capture the voices clearly through the door. The recording app showed a moving line, picking up the sound. It was working. You know what's funny? Brad said. These people always think they're going to break through. They think if they just work hard enough, if they get the right degrees, if they do everything perfect, that they'll be treated the same. They don't understand how the world really works. It's kind of sad when you think about it, Ashley said. Sad for them, maybe, Brad said. Good for people like us, though. Less competition, they both laughed again. The sound made Marcus feel sick. All right, I'm ready for lunch, Ashley said. Let me just send a quick email to Jennifer. I'll tell her to give Marcus the standard rejection talk in about 10 minutes. You know, the "we'll be in touch" speech. Then we'll process his rejection this afternoon. Sounds good, Brad said. Man, I really want pasta right now. Marcus heard footsteps. They were walking toward the door. He quickly lowered his phone but kept it recording. He didn't want them to see him holding it up. The footsteps faded away. A door closed in the distance. The office next door was quiet now. They had left. Marcus sat alone in the small waiting room. His whole body felt numb. He looked at his phone. The recording was still going. He had captured everything. Every word. Every laugh. Every racist comment. He stopped the recording and saved it. His hands were still shaking. He took a deep breath and tried to calm down. 12 years of hard work. 12 years of proving himself. 12 years of being twice as good, just like his father had taught him. And for what? So 2 HR employees could laugh about him and plan to reject him because of his skin color? Marcus felt tears of anger forming in his eyes, but he forced them back. He wouldn't cry, not here. Not now. He opened the recording and listened to a few seconds of it. The voices were clear. Every word was captured perfectly. This was evidence. Real evidence. Not just a feeling or a suspicion. Actual proof of discrimination. The question was, what should he do with it? He could walk out right now. He could forget about this company and move on to the next opportunity. That would be the easy choice. The safe choice. But Marcus was tired of the easy choice. He was tired of letting things slide. He was tired of racism hiding behind professional language and polite smiles. His phone buzzed. It was a text from his wife. How did it go? I'm so excited to hear. Marcus stared at the message. How could he explain this to her? How could he tell her that the interview had gone perfectly but it didn't matter? How could he tell her that he had just overheard 2 people destroying his opportunity because of racism? He didn't respond to the text yet. He needed to think Jennifer Park would be coming back soon. She would probably give him the fake speech Ashley had mentioned. The "we'll be in touch" speech. She probably had no idea what Ashley and Brad had just said. She seemed kind. She was probably just following instructions. Marcus made a decision. He would not make this easy for them. He would not just accept their rejection and walk away quietly. He had evidence. He had proof, and he was going to use it. But he needed to be smart about it. He needed to think carefully about his next move. He put his phone in his pocket, making sure the recording was safely saved. Then he sat back in his chair and waited. 5 minutes later, there was a soft knock on the door. Marcus looked up. Jennifer Park opened the door and stepped inside. She had the same warm smile on her face, but Marcus saw it differently now. He wondered if she knew what Ashley and Brad had been saying. He wondered if she was part of it too. Mr. Thompson, I'm so sorry for the wait, Jennifer said. I hope you weren't too bored. No, it's fine, Marcus said. He kept his voice calm and professional. He didn't want to show any emotion yet. Well, I have good news. David Chen is very impressed with you. The whole engineering team is excited about your interview. Marcus nodded. That's good to hear. We do have a few more steps in our hiring process, Jennifer continued. We need to do a final review with our department head, and of course HR needs to complete our standard evaluation. But you should hear from us within the next few days. There it was. The speech Ashley had mentioned. The "we'll be in touch" message. Jennifer probably believed what she was saying. She probably had no idea that the decision had already been made in that office next door. I understand, Marcus said. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it. Do you have any questions for me? Marcus had many questions. He wanted to ask her if she knew Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan. He wanted to ask her if she knew what kind of people worked in her HR department. He wanted to ask her if the company actually cared about fairness and equality, or if those were just empty words on their website. But he didn't ask any of those questions. Not yet, no, I think I'm good, he said. I look forward to hearing from you. Jennifer walked him back through the hallways toward the lobby. They passed the same offices, the same photos on the walls, but everything looked different to Marcus now. The friendly atmosphere felt fake. The diversity posters on the walls felt like lies. In the lobby, Jennifer shook his hand one more time. "Have a great day, Mr. Thompson." "You too," Marcus said. He walked out through the front doors into the bright sunlight. The cool morning air had been replaced by warm afternoon heat. Marcus walked across the parking lot to his car. His legs felt heavy. His whole body felt tired. He unlocked his car and sat down in the driver's seat. But he didn't start the engine. He just sat there staring at the steering wheel. Then all at once the emotions hit him. Anger, frustration, hurt, disappointment. They all crashed over him like a wave. He gripped the steering wheel tightly. His jaw clenched. He wanted to scream. He wanted to go back into that building and confront Ashley and Brad. He wanted to play the recording for them and watch their faces as they realized they had been caught. But he forced himself to stay calm. He forced himself to think clearly. Marcus pulled out his phone and opened the recording again. He listened to it from the beginning. Ashley's voice saying his name was Urban. Brad's fake accent. Their plan to reject him and hide the real reason. Every word was there. Every piece of evidence he needed. He saved the recording to his cloud storage. Then he made a backup copy and sent it to his personal email. He wasn't going to risk losing this evidence. Marcus sat in his car for a long time thinking about what to do next. He had several options. Option 1. He could confront Ashley and Brad directly. He could walk back into that building right now, find them and play the recording. He could watch them squirm and make excuses. But what would that accomplish? They would probably deny it or claim it was taken out of context. And without witnesses, it would just be his word against theirs. Option 2. He could report them to their supervisor. He could go back and ask to speak to the head of HR. But Ashley had said that HR made the final hiring decisions. What if their supervisor was just like them? What if the whole HR department had the same attitude? Option 3. He could hire a lawyer and file a discrimination lawsuit. That would definitely get their attention. But lawsuits took time. They cost money. They were stressful and exhausting. And even with the recording, there was no guarantee he would win. Option 4. He could just walk away. He could forget about Tech Vision Solutions and move on to the next opportunity. He could protect his own peace of mind and not deal with the hassle. Many people would choose this option. It was the path of least resistance, but Marcus knew himself. He knew he couldn't just walk away. If he did nothing, Ashley and Brad would keep doing this to other people. Other qualified candidates would be rejected because of racism. Other families would lose opportunities because of discrimination. The cycle would continue. Marcus thought about his father. He had passed away 3 years ago, but Marcus still heard his voice sometimes. His father had lived through the civil rights movement. He had experienced discrimination that was much more open and violent than what Marcus had just experienced. But he had never given up. He had never stayed silent. Document everything, his father used to say. In this world, you need proof. Keep records. Save emails. Write things down. Because without proof, they'll deny everything. Marcus had the proof. He had documented everything, just like his father had taught him. Now he needed to decide how to use it. He pulled out his laptop from his briefcase. He connected his phone to create a mobile hotspot. Then he opened his browser and started researching. First, he looked up information about Tech Vision Solutions. He went to their website and read their company values. They had an entire page dedicated to diversity and inclusion. They claimed to value different perspectives. They claimed to provide equal opportunities to all candidates. They even had photos of employees from different backgrounds on their About page. It was all lies, or at least it wasn't being followed in the HR department. Marcus dug deeper. He looked up recent news about the company. He found an article from 2 months ago. The headline read, "Tech Vision Solutions appoints new CEO, promises culture of integrity." He clicked on the article and read it carefully. The new CEO was a woman named Diana Foster. She had previously worked at another major tech company, where she had built a reputation for ethical leadership. In her first speech as CEO of Tech Vision, she had promised to create a workplace culture based on fairness, transparency, and respect. Marcus looked at her photo in the article. She had short gray hair and wore glasses. She looked serious and professional, but most importantly, she looked like someone who might actually care about what had happened to him. He found more articles about Diana Foster. She had written opinion pieces about workplace discrimination. She had spoken at conferences about the importance of diversity in tech. She had even been involved in lawsuits against her previous company when they tried to cover up discrimination claims. This was interesting. Very interesting. Marcus went to the TechVision website and found the contact page. There was a general email address for the CEO's office. But Marcus wanted to do better than that. He wanted to make sure his message reached the right people. He spent the next hour researching. He found the email addresses of the company's legal department. He found the names and contact information for the board of directors. Some of this information was public because TechVision was a publicly traded company. They had to disclose certain things. Marcus opened a new email draft. He thought carefully about what to write. He needed to be clear and professional. He needed to present the facts without too much emotion. He needed to make sure they understood the seriousness of what had happened. He typed slowly and carefully. Subject: urgent. Evidence of discriminatory hiring practices. Dear Ms. Foster and TechVision legal team, my name is Marcus Thompson. I interviewed for the senior software engineer position at your company today, October 29, 2025. The technical interview with the engineering team went very well. However, what happened after the interview is the reason for this email. While waiting in a room adjacent to an HR office, I overheard two of your HR employees, Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan, discussing my application. I have attached an audio recording of their conversation. In this recording, you will hear them make racist comments about me, mock my name as too urban, dismiss my MIT education as affirmative action, and explicitly plan to reject me based on my race while hiding the true reason for the rejection. I am a highly qualified candidate with 12 years of experience in software development and AI technology. I have worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies and hold multiple patents. But according to your HR employees, none of that matters because of the color of my skin. I am sending this email to you, Ms. Foster, because I have read about your commitment to ethical leadership and workplace integrity. I am also copying your legal department and board members, because this issue has serious legal implications for your company. I have attached the audio recording as evidence. I am willing to meet with you to discuss this matter further. Respectfully, Marcus Thompson. Marcus read the email 3 times. He checked for typos. He made sure the tone was professional but firm. Then he attached the audio recording to the email. He looked at the list of recipients. Diana Foster's office, the legal department, 3 board members whose emails he had found. This email would reach important people, people who had the power to make changes. His finger hovered over the sendee. The next morning, Robert Kim arrived at his office at 6:30. He was the executive assistant to Diana Foster, the CEO of TechVision Solutions. Robert liked getting to work early. It gave him time to organize the day before things got busy. He sat down at his desk and turned on his computer. His job was to manage Diana's schedule and sort through her emails. Diana received hundreds of emails every day. Most of them were routine business matters. Some were important. A few were urgent. Robert's job was to know the difference. He opened Diana's email inbox and started scrolling through the messages. There were emails from department heads about quarterly reports. There were emails from clients about projects. There were meeting requests and calendar invitations. Then Robert saw an email that made him pause. The subject line read, "Urgent. Evidence of discriminatory hiring practices." That was definitely not routine. Robert clicked on the email and started reading. As he read Marcus Thompson's message, his expression changed. His eyes widened. His mouth opened slightly. By the time he finished reading, he felt sick to his stomach. He clicked on the audio attachment and put on his headphones. For the next few minutes, he listened to Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan's conversation. He heard every racist comment. He heard every mocking laugh. He heard them planning to reject a qualified candidate because of his race. When the recording ended, Robert sat back in his chair. He felt angry. He felt embarrassed for his company. And he felt afraid. This was bad. This was really bad. He looked at the list of people Marcus had copied on the email. The legal department. 3 board members. This email had gone to some very powerful people. This wasn't something that could be quietly ignored or swept under the rug. Robert marked the email as highest priority. He added a red flag to it. Then he sent a quick text message to Diana. "You need to see an email as soon as you get in. It's urgent, really urgent. Diana Foster arrived at her office at 7 o'clock. She was always punctual. She believed that leaders should set an example by arriving early and working hard. Robert was waiting outside her office when she arrived. His face was serious. Diana could tell immediately that something was wrong. "Good morning, Robert," she said. "I got your text." "What's going on?" "Good morning, Ms. Foster. You need to listen to something. It's about our HR department. It's not good." Diana set down her briefcase and followed Robert into her office. He had already pulled up the email on her computer screen. "Read this first," he said. "Then listen to the audio recording." Diana sat down and read Marcus Thompson's email. Her jaw tightened as she read. When she finished, she looked up at Robert. "Is this real?" "Listen to the recording," Robert said quietly. Diana clicked on the audio file and put on her headphones. For the next few minutes, she sat completely still, listening to Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan's conversation. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. When the recording ended, Diana took off her headphones. She was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was cold and hard. "Cancel all my morning meetings." "All of them?" Robert asked. "All of them," Diana confirmed. "Call Patricia Rodriguez and James Wright. Tell them I need them in my office immediately. This is an emergency." "Yes, ma'am," Robert said. He hurried out of the office. Diana sat alone and listened to the recording again. She had built her career on the principle of ethical leadership. She had left her previous company because they tried to cover up discrimination issues. When she became CEO of TechVision Solutions 6 months ago, she had promised to create a workplace based on fairness and integrity. And now this. 2 HR employees making openly racist comments, planning to reject a qualified candidate because of his race, laughing about it, making jokes. Diana felt betrayed. She felt angry. But most of all, she felt responsible. This had happened in her company under her leadership. Even though she hadn't known about it, it was still her responsibility to fix it. 20 minutes later, Patricia Rodriguez and James Wright walked into Diana's office. Patricia was the Vice President of Human Resources. She had been with the company for 8 years. James was the Chief Legal Officer. He had started at TechVision at the same time as Diana. Both of them looked concerned. They had never been called to an emergency meeting like this before. "Close the door," Diana said. "Sit down." They sat down. Diana looked at both of them. "I received an email this morning from a job candidate named Marcus Thompson. He interviewed here yesterday for a senior developer position. Patricia, this falls under your department, so I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to play for you." Diana turned her computer screen so they could both see Marcus's email. She let them read it. Then she played the audio recording. As the recording played, Patricia's face went pale. Her hands started shaking. She looked like she might be sick. James Wright sat forward in his chair, listening intently. He was a lawyer. He was trained to stay calm during crises, but even he looked shocked. When the recording ended, the office was silent for a moment. "Oh my God," Patricia said quietly. Her voice was shaking. "Oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea they were like this." "Are those voices who I think they are?" Diana asked. Patricia nodded. "Yes, that's Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan. They both work in recruitment. They report to the HR director, who reports to me." She looked like she was going to cry. "Diana, I swear I didn't know about this. If I had known they were saying things like this, I would have fired them immediately." "I believe you," Diana said, "but that doesn't change the fact that it happened. In our HR department, in our company." James Wright spoke up. His voice was calm but serious. "We have a major legal problem here. This recording is clear evidence of racial discrimination in hiring. Marcus Thompson has grounds for a lawsuit, and since he copied the board members on this email, we can't handle this quietly even if we wanted to." "I don't want to handle this quietly," Diana said firmly. "I want to handle this correctly. I want justice, both for Marcus Thompson and for our company." "What do you want to do?" Patricia asked. Diana stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the city for a moment, thinking. Then she turned back to face them. "First, I want Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan suspended immediately. Not tomorrow. Not later today. Right now. They don't come back to this building until we complete a full investigation." Patricia nodded. "I'll call security and have their access badges deactivated." "Second," Diana continued, I want a complete audit of every hiring decision they've been involved with for the past 3 years. I want to know if there's a pattern of discrimination. I want names of every candidate they rejected and the reasons given. James made notes on his tablet. That's going to take time, but we'll do it. Third, I want to personally apologize to Marcus Thompson. I'm going to call him myself and ask him to meet with me. Is that wise? James asked. From a legal standpoint, direct contact with someone who might sue us could be risky. I don't care about the legal risk, Diana said. I care about doing what's right. A qualified candidate was discriminated against in the worst possible way. He deserves a personal apology from the CEO. He deserves to know that this company takes this seriously. Patricia spoke up. I agree with Diana. This isn't just about legal protection. This is about our values, about who we are as a company. James nodded slowly. All right, but I'm going to recommend that I'm present during that meeting. Not to prevent you from apologizing, but to make sure we handle any legal discussions properly. That's fine, Diana agreed. But make it clear to Marcus that you're there as a resource, not as a barrier. Understood, James said. Diana sat back down at her desk. She pulled up the company directory on her computer. Patricia, I need the names of everyone in your department. Everyone who might have interacted with Ashley and Brad. We need to interview them confidentially. I want to know if anyone else knew about this behavior. I want to know if this goes deeper than just 2 bad employees. I'll get you that list within the hour, Patricia said. James, I also want you to look at our anti-discrimination policies. I want to know if we have gaps in our system. I want to know how 2 people could act like this without being caught sooner. I'll start that review today, James said. Diana looked at both of them. I want you both to understand something. This is the most important thing our company will deal with this year, maybe in the past 5 years. How we handle this will define who we are as an organization. Are we a company that covers up problems and protects bad employees? Or are we a company that confronts injustice and makes real changes? Then that's what we're going to be, Diana said. Even if it's difficult, even if it's embarrassing, even if it costs us money or bad publicity, we're going to do the right thing. They spent the next hour planning the investigation. Patricia would lead the internal review with help from an outside HR consulting firm. James would handle the legal aspects and make sure they were following proper procedures. Diana would personally oversee everything and make the final decisions. At 8:30, Patricia left to suspend Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan. James stayed behind with Diana. I need to be honest with you, James said. This could get very messy. If Marcus Thompson decides to sue, and if we find evidence of systematic discrimination during adhering. Patricia Rodriguez walked quickly down the hallway toward the HR department. Her heart was beating fast. She felt angry and ashamed at the same time. Angry at Ashley and Brad for what they had done. Ashamed that it had happened in her department without her knowing. She had been the VP of Human Resources for 3 years. She had always tried to build a fair and professional department. She had created training programs about workplace discrimination. She had established policies to ensure equal opportunity. But somehow 2 of her employees had been openly racist and she hadn't known. Patricia reached the HR office and pushed open the door. Several employees looked up from their desks. She spotted Ashley Morrison sitting at a desk near the window. Brad Sullivan was at the coffee machine, laughing about something with another employee. Patricia walked straight to Ashley's desk. Ashley, I need you to come with me right now. Ashley looked up, surprised. Oh, hi, Patricia. Sure, just let me finish this email. Now, Patricia said. Her voice was firm and cold. Ashley's smile faded. She could tell something was wrong. She saved her work and stood up. Patricia turned to Brad. Brad, you too. Both of you follow me. Brad put down his coffee cup. He exchanged a confused glance with Ashley. They followed Patricia down the hall to a small conference room. Patricia closed the door behind them. Sit down, they sat. Patricia remained standing. She looked at both of them and they could see the anger in her eyes. Do you know Marcus Thompson? Patricia asked. Ashley and Brad looked at each other. Yeah, Brad said. He interviewed yesterday for the senior developer position. Why? Did you have a conversation about him yesterday afternoon? Ashley's face went pale. Brad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I don't know what you mean, Ashley said, but her voice was weak. Patricia pulled out her phone and played the audio recording. She watched their faces as they listened to their own voices. Ashley closed her eyes. Brad's hands started shaking. When the recording ended, neither of them said anything. They just sat there looking at the table. "You're both suspended, effective immediately," Patricia said. "You need to leave the building right now. Security will escort you out. Your access badges are being deactivated as we speak. Don't bother going back to your desks. Someone will pack up your personal items and mail them to you." "Wait," Brad said, his voice desperate. "We can explain." "It wasn't what it sounded like." "Really?" Patricia said. "Because it sounded like two HR professionals making racist comments about a qualified candidate and planning to reject him based on his race." "What other interpretation is there?" "We were just joking around," Ashley said. She was starting to cry. "We weren't serious." "You weren't serious?" Patricia's voice rose. "You planned to reject him. You discussed how to hide the real reason. That doesn't sound like a joke to me." "Please," Ashley begged. "Please don't do this. I have a mortgage. I need this job." "You should have thought about that before you decided to discriminate against someone," Patricia said. "Marcus Thompson worked hard his whole life. He earned his education and experience, and you were going to take away his opportunity because of the color of his skin." Brad stood up. "We're going to sue for wrongful termination?" "Go ahead," Patricia said. "We have a recording of you violating federal discrimination laws and company policy. Good luck with that lawsuit." There was a knock on the door. 2 security guards entered. Patricia pointed at Ashley and Brad. "Escort them out of the building. Make sure they don't access any computers or files on their way out." Ashley was crying openly now. Brad looked angry and scared. The security guards led them out of the conference room. As they walked down the hallway, other employees watched. Word was already spreading through the office that something serious had happened. Patricia stood alone in the conference room for a moment. She felt exhausted and the day had barely started, but there was still so much work to do. She returned to her office and started making a list. She needed to identify every candidate that Ashley and Brad had processed over the past 3 years. She needed to interview the other HR employees to see if anyone else had witnessed inappropriate behavior. She needed to review the company's hiring policies and see where they had failed. Patricia called her assistant. "I need you to pull all hiring records for the past 3 years. I want every application that Ashley Morrison or Brad Sullivan touched. Every rejection letter they sent. Every candidate they interviewed. Everything." "That's going to be a lot of files," her assistant said. "I know. Get started immediately. This is top priority." Patricia spent the next 2 hours reviewing files. What she found made her feel sick. Over the past 3 years, Ashley and Brad had processed over 500 applications. They had rejected dozens of highly qualified candidates. Patricia started noticing patterns in the rejection letters. Candidates with names like Jamal, Deshaun, and Tyrone were rejected for being not a good culture fit. Candidates with names like Maria, Carlos, and Lynn were rejected because their experience didn't align with company needs, even when their experience was exactly what the job required. Meanwhile, less qualified candidates with names like Brad, Jason, and Michael had been hired. Patricia made a spreadsheet. She listed the candidate's name, their qualifications, and the reason given for rejection. The pattern became clear very quickly. Among equally qualified candidates, minority applicants had a rejection rate that was almost 80% higher than white applicants when Ashley and Brad were involved in the decision. This wasn't just about Marcus Thompson. This had been going on for years. How many careers had been hurt? How many families had lost opportunities? How many talented people had been turned away because of racism? Patricia called Diana Foster. "You need to see what I found." An hour later, Patricia, Diana, and James Wright sat in Diana's office looking at the spreadsheet. "This is worse than we thought," James said quietly. "This isn't just 2 employees making a one-time mistake. This is systematic discrimination over multiple years." Diana scrolled through the data. Each line represented a person, a real person who had been treated unfairly. "How did we not catch this sooner?" "There were no complaints," Patricia said. "Most of these candidates probably just thought they weren't a good fit. They had no idea it was because of discrimination. They moved on to other opportunities." "Until Marcus Thompson," Diana said. "He was in the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on how you look at it. He heard them. He recorded them. He gave us proof." "We need to contact every person on this list," Patricia said. "We need to apologize. We need to offer them a chance to reapply. And we need to offer compensation, James added. If this goes to court, and it probably will, we want to show that we took immediate action to make things right. Diana looked at her watch. I'm meeting with Marcus Thompson in an hour. Patricia, James, I want you both there. Marcus deserves to hear directly from us what we've found and what we're going to do about it. At 2 o'clock, Marcus Thompson walked into a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. Diana had suggested a neutral location for their meeting. Marcus didn't want to go back to the Tech Vision building. Too many bad memories. He spotted Diana Foster sitting at a corner table. A man and a woman were with her. Marcus recognized the woman as Patricia Rodriguez from the company website. The man must be their lawyer. Diana stood up when she saw Marcus. She walked over to him and extended her hand. Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming. I'm Diana Foster. This is Patricia Rodriguez, our VP of Human Resources, and James Wright, our Chief Legal Officer. Marcus shook hands with all of them. They sat down at the table. Diana had already ordered coffee for everyone. Mr. Thompson, Diana began, I want to start by apologizing again for what happened to you. What you experienced at our company was wrong. It was racist. It was illegal. And it goes against everything we claim to stand for as an organization. Marcus nodded but said nothing. He wanted to hear what else she had to say. Since receiving your email this morning, we've launched a full investigation, Diana continued. Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan have been suspended. And what we found during our investigation is disturbing. Patricia opened her laptop and turned it so Marcus could see the screen. This is a spreadsheet showing hiring patterns over the past 3 years. The data shows clear evidence of systematic racial discrimination in candidates that Ashley and Brad processed. Marcus looked at the spreadsheet. His jaw tightened as he saw the numbers. So I wasn't the only one? No, Patricia said quietly. You weren't. We've identified dozens of qualified minority candidates who were rejected while less qualified white candidates were hired. The statistical evidence is overwhelming. How long has this been going on? Marcus asked. Marcus sat back in his chair. He felt angry all over again. And nobody noticed? Nobody said anything? There were no formal complaints, Patricia said. Some junior staff members have now told us they felt uncomfortable around Ashley and Brad, but they were afraid to speak up. They didn't have concrete evidence. Until I recorded them, Marcus said. Yes, Diana said. Your recording gave us the evidence we needed, and I want you to know what we're planning to do with it. Diana explained their plan. They would continue the investigation. They would contact every candidate who were. 3 days later, Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan received official letters informing them to attend a formal disciplinary hearing. The letters said they could bring lawyers if they wanted. They both did. The hearing was scheduled for Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Ashley arrived early with her lawyer, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. She looked tired. She had dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept well since being suspended. Brad arrived a few minutes later. His lawyer was a woman who specialized in employment law. Brad looked angry. He had spent the weekend telling his family and friends that he was being treated unfairly, that the company was overreacting, that he had done nothing wrong. They were led to a large conference room on the executive floor. Inside, Diana Foster sat at the head of a long table. Patricia Rodriguez sat to her right. James Wright, the chief legal officer, sat to her left. A woman Brad and Ashley didn't recognize sat next to James. She was a third-party HR investigator brought in to ensure the process was fair. Please sit down, Diana said. Her voice was cold and professional. Ashley and Brad sat on the opposite side of the table with their lawyers. Ashley's hands were shaking. She kept them folded in her lap so nobody would notice. This is a formal termination hearing, Diana began. You both have been suspended for the past 3 days while we conducted an investigation into allegations of discriminatory hiring practices. I'm going to present our findings. Then you'll have a chance to respond. At the end, we'll make our final decision. Brad's lawyer spoke up. Before we begin, I want to state for the record that my client believes this entire process is unfair. He was suspended without proper notice and without a chance to defend himself. Your client was suspended because we had audio evidence of him making racist comments about a job candidate and planning to discriminate against that candidate based on race, James Wright said calmly. That's grounds for immediate suspension under both federal law and company policy. Brad's lawyer started to argue. but Diana held up her hand. Let's move forward. James, please present the evidence. James Wright opened a laptop and turned it so everyone could see the screen. On October 29th, Marcus Thompson interviewed for a senior developer position. After his interview, he was placed in a waiting room adjacent to the HR office. Mr. Thompson overheard a conversation between Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan. He recorded that conversation. I'm going to play it now. The room went silent as the recording played. Ashley closed her eyes. She had heard it before, but it was even worse hearing it again in front of all these people. Brad's face turned red. His lawyer took notes on a legal pad. When the recording ended, James continued. This recording clearly shows both employees making racist comments, mocking Mr. Thompson's name and education, and explicitly planning to reject him based on his race while hiding the true reason for the rejection. Ashley's lawyer spoke. My client acknowledges that the conversation was inappropriate. However, she maintains that these were just private comments made in frustration. They don't reflect her actual hiring practices. Patricia Rodriguez opened a folder and pulled out several documents. Unfortunately, the evidence disagrees with that claim. She spread the documents across the table. Over the past 3 years, Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan processed over 500 job applications. We analyzed their hiring decisions and found a clear pattern. Patricia pointed to a chart showing statistics. Among equally qualified candidates, minority applicants had a rejection rate 78% higher than white applicants when these two employees were involved in the hiring decision. Black candidates were rejected at the highest rate. Asian and Latino candidates were also significantly more likely to be rejected compared to white candidates with identical qualifications. She pulled out specific examples. Here's Jamal Washington, master's degree in computer science from Stanford, 8 years of experience. Rejected by Mr. Sullivan for being not a culture fit. Meanwhile, Jason Miller, with a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience, was hired for the same position. Patricia pulled out another file. Here's Keisha Williams, MBA from Harvard, 10 years of marketing experience. Rejected by Ms. Morrison because her communication style didn't align with company needs. Meanwhile, Katie Roberts, with a degree from a local college and 6 years of experience, was hired. She continued pulling out example after example. Each one showed the same pattern. Qualified minority candidates rejected for vague reasons. Less qualified white candidates hired. Brad's lawyer tried to interrupt. These are just a few cherry-picked examples. They don't prove systematic discrimination. These aren't cherry-picked examples, James said. These are representative of a pattern we found throughout 78% of their hiring decisions over 3 years. We have statistical analysis that shows this pattern is highly unlikely to occur by chance. The probability is less than 1% that this pattern is random. Ashley started crying quietly. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. Can we take a break? No, Diana said firmly. We're going to finish this hearing. Ashley, Brad, do you have anything to say in your defense? Brad spoke up, his voice defensive. Look, we made some inappropriate jokes. I admit that. But we're not racist. We have friends who are minorities. We've hired minority candidates before. Having minority friends doesn't mean you can't be racist, Patricia said. And yes, you've hired some minority candidates. But the statistical evidence shows you discriminated against many more. The recording we have proves that you plan to reject Marcus Thompson specifically because of his race. We were just venting, Ashley said through her tears. We didn't actually mean those things. You said, and I quote, we reject him, Diana said. You discussed how to hide the real reason for the rejection. You mocked his name and education. You made racist jokes. What part of that sounds like harmless venting? The third-party investigator spoke up. She had been taking notes throughout the hearing. I've reviewed all the evidence. I've interviewed other HR staff members. I've analyzed the hiring data. In my professional opinion, there is overwhelming evidence that both Ms. Morrison and Mr. Sullivan engaged in discriminatory hiring practices over an extended period of time. This violates federal law, state law, and company policy. Brad slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. We're being crucified for one conversation that was taken out of context. One conversation that revealed your true attitudes, Diana said. One conversation that explained 3 years of discriminatory hiring patterns. One conversation that hurt dozens of people and exposed this company to serious legal liability. James Wright pulled out 2 thick documents and slid them across the table. These are the termination letters. You're both being fired for cause effective immediately. You will not receive severance packages. You will not receive positive references. Your health insurance will end at the end of this month, as per standard policy for termination with cause. Ashley's lawyer quickly read through the document. You can't do this. My client has an employment contract. Her employment contract includes a morality clause, James said. It also explicitly prohibits discrimination and harassment. She violated both of those provisions. The termination is legal and appropriate. Brad's lawyer was reading the document too. We're going to sue for wrongful termination. You're going to hear from us. You're welcome to try, James said calmly. But I should inform you that we have extensive documentation of discriminatory behavior. We have audio evidence. We have statistical evidence. We have witness testimony. If you sue us, all of that evidence will become public record during the lawsuit. Your clients will have to explain to a judge and jury why they made racist comments and discriminated against candidates. I don't think that will go well for them. Brad's face went pale. His lawyer whispered something to him. Brad shook his head angrily. Diana stood up. This hearing is over. Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan, you are terminated from Tech Vision Solutions effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You will not be allowed to access company property or contact company employees. All of your personal items have been packed and will be shipped to your homes. This isn't fair, Ashley said, still crying. You know what isn't fair? Diana said, her voice sharp. Marcus Thompson working his entire life to build a career, only to have it nearly destroyed by your racism. Jamal Washington being rejected despite his Stanford degree. Keisha Williams being passed over despite her Harvard MBA. Dozens of other people who lost opportunities because you decided the color of their skin was more important than their qualifications. That's what isn't fair. There was a knock on the door. 2 security guards entered. Please escort them out, Diana said. You should have been sorry 3 years ago, Patricia said. You should have been sorry the first time you discriminated against someone. You should have been sorry before you hurt all those people. Brad stood up too, but he looked angry instead of sorry. You're going to regret this. Both of you. We'll see you in court. We'll be ready, Diana said. The security guards led Ashley and Brad out of the conference room. Their lawyers gathered their papers and followed. As they walked down the hallway, employees stopped working and watched. Everyone had heard Rumo. 2 days after the termination hearing, Diana Foster stood in front of her bathroom mirror, preparing for one of the most important presentations of her career. In 30 minutes, she would address the entire company about what had happened with Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan. She looked at her reflection. She looked tired. The past week had been exhausting, but this conversation needed to happen. The employees deserved to know the truth. Diana drove to the office and arrived at 8 in the morning. The all-staff meeting was scheduled for 9. Robert Kim, her assistant, was already in her office making final preparations. Are you ready for this? Robert asked. No, Diana said honestly. But it needs to be done anyway. At 8:45, employees started gathering in the large auditorium on the ground floor. Some looked curious. Others looked nervous. Everyone had heard rumors about why Ashley and Brad had been fired. But nobody knew the complete story. By 9 o'clock, the auditorium was full. Over 300 employees sat in the seats. Others watched from remote offices through a video link. Diana walked onto the stage. The room became quiet. Good morning, Diana began. Thank you all for being here. I know many of you have questions about what happened this week. You've seen 2 of our HR employees escorted out of the building. You've heard rumors. Today I'm going to tell you the truth about what happened and what we're going to do about it. Diana took a deep breath. Last week, a job candidate named Marcus Thompson interviewed here for a senior developer position. His interview with the engineering team went very well. But after the interview, while sitting in a waiting room, Mr. Thompson overheard 2 of our HR employees, Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan, having a conversation about him. Diana paused. The room was completely silent. Everyone was listening carefully. Mr. Thompson recorded that conversation. With his permission, I'm going to play part of that recording for you now. I want you to hear it. I want you to understand how serious this is. Diana nodded to Robert, who operated the audio system. The recording played through the speakers. The voices of Ashley and Brad filled the auditorium. Their racist comments, their mocking laughter, their plan to reject Marcus based on his race. As the recording played, Diana watched the faces in the audience. Some people looked shocked. Some looked angry. A few looked down at their hands, uncomfortable. Several minority employees had tears in their eyes. When the recording ended, the silence in the room was heavy. "That," Diana said, her voice hard, "is completely unacceptable. It's racist. It's illegal. It goes against every value this company claims to hold. And it happened here in our building by our employees." Diana clicked a button on the remote. A slide appeared on the screen behind her showing statistical data. After receiving Mr. Thompson's email and hearing that recording, we launched an immediate investigation. What we found was even worse than we expected. She walked the audience through the data, the pattern of discrimination over 3 years, the rejection rates for minority candidates, the specific examples of qualified candidates who were rejected, while less qualified white candidates were hired. "This wasn't just one conversation," Diana said. "This wasn't just one mistake. This was systematic discrimination that hurt dozens of people over multiple years." A hand went up in the audience. Diana nodded. "Yes?" A young black man stood up. He was an engineer in the marketing department. Why didn't anyone notice this sooner? Why did it take someone recording them to finally expose this? "That's an excellent question," Diana said. "And it's one I've been asking myself all week. The truth is, we failed. I failed. We had blind spots in our system. We trusted that our HR department was following proper procedures. We didn't have enough oversight. We didn't have mechanisms for people to report concerns safely." Another hand went up. This time it was an Asian woman. "I've been working here for 2 years. During that time, I've sometimes felt uncomfortable when Ashley and Brad made certain comments. But I didn't think I had enough evidence to report them. I was afraid I would get in trouble for making accusations without proof." "Thank you for sharing that," Diana said, "and I'm sorry you felt that way. That's exactly the kind of culture we need to change. People shouldn't be afraid to speak up about concerns." A white man in his 30s raised his hand. "So what happened to Ashley and Brad?" "They were both terminated," Diana said firmly. "Fired for cause. They will not receive severance packages. They will not be allowed on company property, and we will not provide positive references for them." Some people nodded in approval. Others whispered to the people next to them. "But firing 2 employees isn't enough," Diana continued. "We need to make real changes to prevent this from ever happening again. So I want to tell you about the new initiatives we're implementing immediately." Diana clicked to the next slide. "First, we're completely reforming our hiring process. We're implementing blind resume screening. That means names, photos, graduation years, and other identifying information will be removed from resumes during the initial review. Candidates will be judged only on their qualifications and experience. Second, we're requiring all hiring panels to include diverse representation. No hiring decision will be made by just 1 or 2 people. Multiple perspectives will be included in every decision. Third, we're creating an anonymous reporting system. Anyone who witnesses discrimination, harassment, or other inappropriate behavior can report it without fear of retaliation. These reports will be reviewed by an independent third party, not by the same managers who might be involved in the problem. Fourth, we're bringing in outside auditors to review our hiring practices every quarter. They'll look at our data, identify any patterns of discrimination, and report directly to me and the board of directors." Diana clicked to another slide. "We're also creating a new position, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. This person will have a direct reporting line to me. They'll have the authority to investigate discrimination concerns and recommend policy changes. And they'll have the budget to recruit from historically black colleges and universities, Hispanic-serving institutions, and other minority-serving institutions." A woman in the front row raised her hand. "That all sounds good. But how do we know it will actually make a difference? How do we know this isn't just corporate talk to make the problem go away?" "That's a fair question," Diana said. "And honestly, you don't know yet. We'll have to prove it through our actions. But I want you to know that I'm personally committed to this. This isn't just about avoiding lawsuits or protecting the company's reputation. This is about doing what's right. This is about creating a workplace where everyone has a fair chance, where talent matters more than the color of your skin." The engineering manager, David Chen, raised his hand. "What about Marcus Thompson? Is he still interested in working here after what happened?" Diana smiled. "Yes, I met with Mr. Thompson personally. I apologized for what happened. I explained what we found in our investigation and what we're doing to fix it. And I offered him the senior developer position. He accepted. There was scattered applause in the auditorium. David Chen looked relieved and happy. Mr. Thompson will be joining us in 2 weeks, Diana continued. And I hope you'll all welcome him. He showed incredible courage in speaking up about what happened. He could have just walked away. He could have sued us and moved on. But instead, he decided to give us a chance to do better. He's agreed to help us improve our policies and practices. His perspective and experience will be valuable. A young Latina woman raised her hand. I'm glad Marcus is getting justice. But what about all the other people who were discriminated against? The ones in that data you showed us? What happens to them? Another excellent question, Diana said. We're reaching out to every candidate who was potentially discriminated against over the past 3 years. We're apologizing personally. We're offering them priority reconsideration for positions. And we're providing compensation for the opportunities they lost. She paused. This is going to cost the company money. It's going to take time and resources, but it's the right thing to do. These people were hurt by our failures. They deserve to be made whole. An older white man in the back stood up. I'm worried about the company's reputation. When this story gets out, and it will get out, how is it going to affect us? Are we going to lose clients? Are our stock prices going to drop? Companies make mistakes. That's a fact. But how we respond to those mistakes is what defines who we are. Are we the kind of company that hides problems and protects bad employees? Or are we the kind of company that confronts injustice, holds people accountable, and makes real changes? I choose the second option. And if that means we face some short-term consequences, so be it. In the long run, doing the right thing always wins. Several people in the audience started clapping. The applause spread through the room. Not everyone was clapping, but most were. Diana held up her hand. I'm not looking for applause. I'm looking for commitment. I need every person in this company to be part of this change. If you see discrimination, speak up. If you hear... 6 months later, Marcus Thompson sat at his desk on the 5th floor of TechVision Solutions. The morning sun came through the window, warming his face. He typed code on his computer, solving a complex problem in the AI system he was developing. It was a Friday morning in late April. The office was busy with the energy of people finishing projects before the weekend. Marcus heard laughter from the conference room next door where his team was having their morning stand-up meeting. His phone buzzed. It was a text from David Chen, his manager. Great work on the AI module. The client is very impressed. Meeting at 2 to discuss next phase? Marcus smiled and texted back. Sounds good. See you then, 6 months. It had been 6 months since that terrible day when he overheard Ashley and Brad. 6 months since he recorded their racist conversation. 6 months since he sent that email to Diana Foster. So much had changed since then. Marcus looked around his office. On his wall, he had framed a handwritten note from a young programmer. The note said, "Thank you for speaking up. Your courage inspired me to pursue my dreams in tech. Sarah Chen, computer science student." Marcus had received that note 2 months ago. Sarah was a black student at Howard University who had heard about his story. She had written to tell him that his willingness to fight discrimination had given her hope. That it showed her that speaking up was worth it. Marcus kept the note where he could see it every day. It reminded him why accountability mattered. Why standing up to injustice was important even when it was hard. There was a knock on his door. Marcus looked up. A young black woman stood in the doorway. She looked nervous. "Mr. Thompson, do you have a minute?" "Of course, come in. And please call me Marcus." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "What can I do for you?" The young woman sat down. "My name is Jasmine Carter. I started in the engineering department last month. I'm an intern. Nice to meet you, Jasmine. How are you liking it so far?" "I love it," Jasmine said, her face lighting up. "Everyone has been really welcoming. The projects are interesting. I'm learning so much." "That's great to hear," Marcus said. Jasmine hesitated, then continued. "I actually wanted to thank you. I know what happened to you when you first came here. I know about the discrimination you faced. And I know that you could have just walked away. But you didn't, you fought back. You made them change." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. "I just did what needed to be done." "No," Jasmine said firmly. "You did more than that. Because of you, I got a fair chance. I was hired through the new blind screening process. Nobody saw my name or my photo until after they decided I was qualified. And when I came in for my interview, I had a diverse panel of people evaluating me, not just one or two. She paused. I got hired because of my skills and my potential. Not because of my race and not despite my race. Just because I was good enough. That's all anyone wants. A fair chance, Marcus nodded. You're right. That's all anyone wants. After Jasmine left, Marcus sat quietly for a moment. Then he stood up and walked to the break room to get coffee. On the way, he passed the HR department. The department looked different now. Ashley and Brad were long gone. In their place were new recruiters who had been carefully vetted and trained. The department had also hired Dr. Keisha Williams as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Dr. Williams was a black woman with a PhD in organizational psychology. She had spent 20 years studying workplace discrimination and developing solutions. Diana Foster had hired her 3 months ago and given her real power to make changes. Marcus saw Dr. Williams in her office, talking with Jennifer Park. Jennifer had been promoted to HR manager after proving her commitment to fairness. She had been one of the first people to come forward during the investigation, to admit she should have spoken up sooner about Ashley and Brad's behavior. Marcus continued to the break room. Inside, he found 3 of his teammates having coffee and discussing the weekend plans. There was Chen Liu, a Chinese software engineer, Maria Santos, a Latina designer, and Jake Morrison, a white developer. Hey Marcus, Chen said. We're going to try that new Korean barbecue place tomorrow night. Want to join us? I'd love to, Marcus said, pouring his coffee. What time? As they talked, Marcus thought about how natural this felt. Working with a diverse team, being valued for his contributions, not having to wonder if his race was holding him back or making him a target. It hadn't been easy getting here. The first few weeks after he started the job had been awkward. Everyone knew what had happened to him. Some people didn't know how to act around him. Some were overly apologetic. Others avoided mentioning race at all, even when it was relevant to discussions about diversity initiatives. But gradually, things had normalized. Marcus proved himself through his work. He led projects successfully. He mentored junior developers. He contributed ideas that made the company better. His colleagues started seeing him as Marcus the talented engineer, not Marcus the discrimination victim. The company had changed too. The blind resume screening was now standard practice. Every hiring panel had to include at least 3 people from different backgrounds. The anonymous reporting system had been used 12 times in 6 months, and every report had been investigated thoroughly. TechVision's minority hiring rate had increased by 40%. But more importantly, the retention rate had improved. Minority employees weren't leaving at high rates anymore because they felt valued and respected. The changes weren't perfect. There were still problems. Some managers resisted the new policies. Some employees complained that diversity initiatives were going too far. But Diana Foster held firm. She made it clear that discrimination wouldn't be tolerated, and leaders who didn't support the changes would need to work elsewhere. After his coffee break, Marcus returned to his desk. He had an email from Patricia Rodriguez asking if he could attend a meeting next week about refining the hiring process. They wanted his input on additional improvements. Marcus had become an informal advisor on diversity issues. Diana Foster and Patricia Rodriguez frequently asked for his perspective. At first, Marcus had worried this would become his only role, that he would be seen as the diversity guy instead of the skilled engineer he was. But Diana had been smart about it. She made clear that Marcus's primary role was as a senior developer. His technical work came first. His advice on diversity issues was valuable, but it was secondary. This allowed Marcus to contribute to both areas without being pigeonholed. At noon, Marcus went to lunch with David Chen and 2 other engineers. They talked about the project, about new technologies, about weekend plans, normal work conversation among colleagues. As they ate, David mentioned something. By the way, we got the quarterly audit results back from the independent reviewers. Our department passed with no concerns about discriminatory practices. That's good, Marcus said. It's more than good, David said. It means the changes are working. It means we're actually building something better here. After lunch, Marcus attended a team meeting about the AI project. The meeting was productive. Everyone contributed ideas. Decisions were made based on merit, not politics or favoritism. At 3 o'clock, Marcus received a notification. It was from the company's internal news system. Diana Foster had posted an announcement. The announcement said that Tech Vision had successfully reached out to every candidate who had been potentially discriminated against over the past 3 years. 72 people had been contacted. 68 had responded. Of those, 41 had accepted compensation for lost opportunities. 23 had reapplied for positions and 15 had been hired. The announcement also said that Ashley Morrison and Brad Sullivan had attempted to sue the company for wrongful termination. Their lawsuit had been dismissed. The judge had ruled that the company had clear grounds for termination based on documented discriminatory behavior. Marcus read the announcement twice. 72 people. 72 lives that had been affected by Ashley and Brad's racism. And now, at least some of them were getting justice. He thought about what could have happened if he hadn't recorded that conversation. If he hadn't sent that email, Ashley and Brad would still be working in HR. They would still be discriminating against candidates. More people would have been hurt, but he had spoken up. And it had made a difference. At 4 o'clock, Marcus finished his coding work for the day. He had one more thing to do before the weekend. He walked down to the 3rd floor to Dr. Williams's office. Of course, Marcus. Come in. She gestured to a chair. What's on your mind? Marcus sat down. I've been thinking about starting a mentorship program, specifically for young programmers from underrepresented backgrounds. I want to help students who are trying to break into tech, especially students who might face discrimination or who might doubt themselves because of their background. Dr. Williams smiled. That's a wonderful idea. Tell me more. They spent 30 minutes discussing the details. Dr. Williams promised to help him set up the program. She had connections with several universities and coding boot camps. She could help recruit mentees. You know, Dr. Williams said as Marcus was leaving, when Diana first told me about what happened to you, I wondered if you would be bitter, if you would be angry at this company forever. But instead, you've become one of our strongest advocates for change. That's